Thank you, Amit, and the organizers for giving me this opportunity, because I've been hearing every word since the morning, and I think all this is very, very useful deliberation. I was also given a brief by Ritu, which said something about vocational and skills training and so on. But I think that's relatively boring subject compared to where we are already now. And for those who really want more of that, you can go to a blog which I have called flipmook.wordpress.com, where I've written about 800 words on that subject. And if that is too much, then go to Twitter, and my handle is @mmpant, not changed, not archived. You go to that handle @mmpant, and you'll get a link to WordPress from where you can get this write-up. But what I want to talk to you about is what I heard just now, beginning with what Ritu said about disruptive education. And I think I want to emphasize the huge amount of disruptions that are on the horizon and the big opportunity that we have. See, I have been an out-and-out academic. I taught in Canada, I taught in IIT Kanpur, I was part of IGNOU, and people my age have always been complaining education is becoming a business. And I say it is not being business enough. And I think that is the key cusp that we are through, where we really need to take education to be unabashedly business-like. And because it is not business-like, therefore you see many of the evils that you actually see in education. I want to begin from what Ritu said, what Shiv Kheda said, build on that, and what each of these speakers said, and they're wonderful people who are creating Ashoka University. Prabhat Jain, I know since I think the foundation was being dug up of his school, and I went him. And Jaipurias have a huge thing in education. I don't know about him in particular, but I come from IIT Kanpur, and Jaipurias is a very well-known school. And we talked about World Bank, distance learning, and so on. I want to put this together to really say a few things, which is not talking about making world-class universities. I think those universities are extinct. We are talking about Harvard and Princeton and Cambridge and Oxford. They are extinct like Nalanda and Takshila. If you know logarithms on a logarithmic scale, those are extinct. So our attempt to look at world-class universities, to me, is a kind of a mirage. I mean, somebody talked about Robert Louis Stevenson, so it's like El Dorado, which he talks about. I think what we should understand is where we are now, where the world is headed 5 years from now, and what do we need to do. And success happens when preparation meets opportunity. And therefore, you have to anticipate what the opportunities are and start preparing for them. It is no use looking at the past, because there is a serious disruption between the past and the future. If the past were a continuation, so for example, when I studied MSc 1966 from Allahabad, the notes which my uncle studied in 1942 were perfectly okay. Same questions, same syllabus, same examiners, and so on. But what you're going to see 5 years from now is very different from what you have. And there are many things I want to say, and some of them, I'm actually basically anti-government, so it is very difficult for me to see anything coming which is good for, and the reason is fundamental. The purposes are different. Government works on authority. All of you who have got degrees, what happened in the convocation? Somebody said, the vice chancellor of the university, like maybe his brother or whoever, by virtue of the authority vested in me as vice chancellor of the university, I grant to you this degree. He doesn't say, you and I have spent exploring knowledge, arguing, debating, fighting, and now welcome to the club of intellectuals. He doesn't say that. He says, because of the authority. And government is about authority. So AICT, NCT, DEC, this. They have all ruined the education in India, and shamelessly, after ruining, they want to increase. See, how can a failed system scale and become good? GR at 8% was no good. Everybody was unemployable. At 30%, how does this become good? I have never seen anybody else who will scale a failed system. School education. Everybody knows that anybody who could afford 100 rupees a month would go to a private school. Those who had a lot more money went to Prabhat Jain schools. But even the poorest person, I've met drivers in this thing, if they can afford 100 rupees a month, they would not go to government school. How does the government react? Does not improve its school. It passes an act called Right to Education Act. And have you ever seen in the world a right to... No, listen completely. You know what is the name of the act? It is Right to Free and Compulsory Education. Have you ever seen an act in the world which says right to a compulsory something? If it is a compulsory something, then where is the right? So that is the whole problem about this thing. Even then, it is not able to salvage it, because with the free midday meal, with this, after a couple of years, people will still want to go back where they can get good service. And what I'm trying to say now is, therefore, the quality of education is the paramount thing, and people will go for quality. In the Mahabharata, you've heard that Yudhishthir's story, and the question, one of the first questions asked is, Kim Ashcharyam? I said, what is the big surprise? And he says, people die every day, but everybody thinks he will not die. So 400 MBA institutes are closed, but the rest of the thing, no, we won't. The schools, government schools, children are not going to, but government thinks somehow they will go because we will force them, or we will force them 25% into the good schools which are done by other people. The point is, unless we unequivocally address the issue of quality, and quality is preparation for the future, not for the past, nothing will happen. But now let me come to the positive thing. I have a firm belief and that we are now ready. We are in a kind of a turbulence, but ready for creating the billion-dollar education company coming from India. We have seen Microsoft. We are very happy that our fellow is chief of Microsoft or Nokia, but we are ready for a billion-dollar education company coming from India. And Shiv Khera said, don't go after Olympic-sized pool and so on. Those are shareable resources. You can get them. Every school does it. See, we have a system which has made it so expensive because everybody has to have a duplication of that rather than sharing of resources. And AICT, etc., are stupid in that they will tell you each one must have a library, each one must have a space. In a poor country like ours, to not allow sharing is a huge thing. So let me come quickly now. So how do we get a billion-dollar education company? The answer is, have you seen the State Bank ad where somebody is going for looking for where is the branch of State Bank, and he says it is in your pocket? Well, we have it in our pocket. All the mobile phones that we have are educational devices. What does CBSE do? And unfortunately, Vineet is not here. CBSE bans mobiles in classroom. Now, the most important access device, we talked about communication in and out. The most important communication device, and it is very interesting because the thoughts that I have, I put on a WordPress, so flipmook.wordpress.com, anyone of I sent it by mail right here to Ritu in terms of what was there. So I can send on the mobile lessons, videos, audios, podcasts to all the students anywhere in the world. So now let me tell you why this is there. I read about 10, 15 years ago an article on the internet, and I have been committed to that. India will become the educational provider to the world, because the best of Indian educators are known to be the best in the world. I've taught at IIT myself, but every place there are people who, and Indian students have done very well. Only point is there are not enough of them. The second thing is, what is the people, where is the aspiration coming for learning from? It is India, China, Vietnam, Philippines, Sub-Saharan Africa, and so on, and Indians are very good at globalization. Europe is reasonably saturated, America is reasonably saturated, so you don't have new markets there. But there are new markets everywhere else. And what do people want to learn? They all want to learn English. They all want to learn mathematics, they all want to learn science, for which Indian education is very good. English, he said, very interestingly, this was a British writer, he says, English Indians have an advantage because they can go to the customer and say, look here, for me, English is a second language. Every Indian who speaks in English, English is a second language, see how I've mastered it. A native speaker of English can never understand the nuances of English as a second language. And we can go on to maths and so on and so forth. So what do we need to do? And I'm very happy that he talked of Michael Porter, so we can talk of academics as well. There are 3 books which will drive the new education market. The first is, which I'm sure Ritu has read somewhere or the other, called Disrupting Class by Clayton Christensen. Clayton Christensen is a Harvard professor who is famous for disruption. And people said, you talk disruption everywhere. What about disruption in education? So he wrote a book called Disrupting Class. And the one-line summary of the book is, you can read the whole book if you like, the one-line summary of the book is, the disruption in education is not the use of technology, it is in the personalization of the learning experience. And somebody talked about TED Talks. Ken Robinson, in one of his TED Talks, very nicely says that since all children are unique, you eventually have to create personalized experiences, which you're doing in business. So business knows that you have to do customizing for the customer. We as educators don't. We want to choose students who fit into what we can deliver. Therefore, if the knowledge of Amazon, if the knowledge of Google, if the knowledge of what we know, and I'm saying this very seriously, because what is lacking in education is that educators do not understand the customer. They are trained in throwing the customer out of class. They're not throwing in getting. See, who can be more foolish than the IITs? 1.5 million people want to get into the IITs, and they're all willing to pay about 1 lakh rupees per person, and they do pay that to Bansal Glasses and Kota. But IIT says, we won't take you. We will take only a few people. And they're doing this when they know Stanford and Harvard and everybody is doing MOOCs. They're talking about millions of people, and we had so many stories of people who do not get admission here but can get admission abroad, and so on. So using these technologies, using the world as a market, using new areas. See, the point is, and I would like to draw this attention to Vineet, that classroom is not the ideal goal. I think this is the big mistaken notion that we teachers, and especially good teachers, have communicated, that classrooms and good teachers are the critical thing of learning. It is not so. If you have better analytics, you can do that for much better people. I will draw a quick analogy with cooking. If you see anybody who has not experienced microwave cooking, he cannot imagine that there can be cooking without a source of heat which directly transfers heat. So whether you have a coal or a coke or wood or even the filament of an electric lamp, they only knew you have a direct transfer. Our model of learning is exactly this, transfer of learning by a known person who is knowledgeable to somebody else. How does a microwave oven work? There is no heat transfer in a microwave oven also. It gets the molecules in the foodstuff to start agitating and vibrating. Awakening the learner within, which Vivekananda also we quote all the time. The education is the perfectation of mankind, already perfected in man. And so a good teacher is important. So I wanted to reassure Ritu, the teacher is very important. But the teacher is important because it awakens the learner within and makes the person a self-directed learner. So all the resources that are in the world, the person can transact and learn. In Ramayana, we say, Sakal Padarat hai jagmahi karam hi nar pavat nahi. So you make him in a situation that all the stuff that is available can be learned. It is not only upon that. So this is the essential thing that I wanted to say. And as I said, those of you who like a more detailed, specific thing, it is given in my blog, flipmook.wordpress.com, or you can go to Twitter at mmpant. And you can, of course, always mail me at mmpant@gmail.com. I think we have a huge opportunity of a new system of education, which will cut across. The final sentence is that the demarcation that we had from primary school, this school, workplace, etc., is now becoming a continuum. We are talking about lifelong learners, we are talking about increased longevity, and therefore these segregations get reduced, and this integration happens because of the technology. Thank you.